Oh, hey class. We've been learning about congruent triangles, and so I wanted to go over just a little bit of review and then one new rule that we learned today in class if you were absent. So we've been talking about these triangles, and so for example, if we say that these two triangles right here are congruent, and then we're given some information. So for example, maybe we're given, that A is congruent to M, and AB is congruent to MN, and let's say AC is congruent to MP. Okay, so if we're given this information, the question is, are they congruent? So if they follow the rules we learned last week, then they are congruent. And so we need to see what we have. And so I like to label what I have. And so for this one, I know that this is a side, and then this is an angle, and this is another side. And so if I do it in order, this is then side, angle, side, right? So we have side, angle, side. And so we want to make sure that that is the same for the blue triangle as well. And so we want to label that one too. So side, angle, side. And so it matches. And so that means that these two triangles are in fact congruent, and they're congruent because it follows side, angle, side. So if we wanted to write a congruent statement saying that the triangles are congruent, there's a couple ways you can do it. Remember, as long as you're writing them in the same order, there can be multiple answers. So for example, I'm going to say triangle, and I'm going to say ABC. So I'm going to start at the top, A, B, C. And so I started here, and I went to B, so I went with the one tally mark, and then I went over to the one with no tally mark. And so I need to follow that same pattern with the blue one. And so that's going to be congruent to M, N, P. I'm following the same pattern. And so when you see something that says to write a congruent statement for the triangles, this is what they mean, okay? And so there are multiple answers for this, but I wanted to show you that. So these triangles are congruent, and they're congruent from side, angle, side. So let's take a look at another one, okay? So let's say we have two triangles. We'll just use the same ones, A, B, C. These are not drawn to scale. I'm just kind of free drawing them, M and P, okay? And so now let's see if we know some different things about these triangles, what might happen. And so let's say we know that side AB equals MN. We know AC is equal to MN, and NP is equal to CB. Okay, again, it helps to say, what do you have? Well, I know this is a side, I know this is a side, and I know this is a side. No angles were given, they were all sides. And so this is kind of the easier one. And the question is, do the two follow the same rule? And so they do, they follow SSS. Okay, and so because they follow SSS, we can say that yes, these two triangles are congruent. Okay, let's try one more older one or two more older ones from last week. Okay, so what if we have this angle and this angle, this angle and this angle, and this side and this side? Okay, so again, label what you have. I have an angle here, I have a side here, and I have an angle here. And that's the order. And then does the other triangle follow the same pattern? And the answer is yes. And so in this case, these two triangles are congruent because of angle, side, angle, or ASA. Okay? So let's just refresh the ones that we know. Okay, we know, we've already done a few of them, but we know that SAS works. That was side, angle, side. We know that side, side, side works. We know that angle, side, angle works. We know that angle, angle, side work. So these are the 4 we learned last week. Okay, we learned that the ones that don't work, that don't give enough information, is angle, 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 okay, or side, side, angle. So these 2 are not postulates that work for congruent triangles. Today I want to show you an exception to the rule. And so I want to show you an exception to the SSA rule. So normally side, side, angle, or angle, side, side do not work, okay? But there is an exception to the rule. And so I want to show you the exception. So the exception is if I have a right triangle. So let's say these are 90-degree angles. I have a right triangle, and their hypotenuses are congruent. So remember, the hypotenuse is the side across from the 90 degrees. And so this is my hypotenuse, and this is a hypotenuse. And we'll say that those are equal. And then we'll say that a side is equal, a different side, okay? And so, okay, and those are just a leg of some sort. Now, if I were to follow this pattern, it would be side, side, angle. So it'd be side, side, angle, okay? Which normally we're not allowed to have. But the exception to the rule is if this is a 90-degree angle, so if it's a right triangle and the hypotenuses are equal and one of the legs is equal, then the triangles will be congruent, and we call this rule HL, which stands for hypotenuse leg, because the hypotenuse and the leg are congruent and it's a 90-degree triangle. Then we have this new rule, it's kind of an exception, and it's hypotenuse leg. Okay, so we want to add that one to our list that helps us determine if 2 triangles are congruent. All right, we will practice some more, and we have a test next week.